Amara by far is one of the most interesting vault hunters that we have from the 4 to pick from, but what makes her special is that you could make her into a complete tank, giving her increased health regen, and the ability to deal a lot of elemental damage. So if you want to know what the best tank build for Amara is, let's dive in and find out. This is LaserBolt, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Amara tank build. Now, what makes this build so effective is the fact that it's going to give you a big advantage of taking a lot of damage and being able to convert that damage that you're taking into health regeneration. In addition to that, you'll also be dealing a lot of elemental damage, making it really good for when you're fighting enemies with shields and with armor. And you're also going to be getting a lot of damage reduction after you're using your skills. So this build primarily is focused on having a lot of synergy on getting your health back and also dealing a lot of damage. Now, if you're trying to figure out what type of element you should be going with, definitely check out my video on where I go over what are the best elements to use against enemies, or if you're going to be playing with a different Vault Hunter and you're trying to figure out what build to go with, definitely check out my videos. I'll link them linked down below in the description. But before we dive into the build, I do want to remind you guys about our giveaway. We're giving away 2 free copies of Shadowkeep for the system of your choice. To enter and participate, it's super easy. All you gotta do is click the link down below where it says Join Bull Nation, and you guys will be automatically entered. Now, when you join the Bull Nation, not only do you unlock access to the giveaways, but you'll be also getting exclusive features only found on the channel, like the LaserBolt badge, the cool, awesome emotes that we have for you guys to use across YouTube. So definitely consider joining. I want to give a massive shout out and say thank you to everybody who has joined so far. Thank you guys for making the Bold Nation that much stronger and for your amazing support. Also, as a friendly reminder, guys, want to remind you, if you're trying to find people to play Borderlands 3 with, or just want to find like-minded individuals who love Borderlands as much as you do and as much as we do, definitely check out over our Discord channel. We've created a Borderlands LFG group where you guys can find people on the PC, Xbox, and PlayStation 4, so definitely do check it out if you get a chance. Alright, so guys, now it's time for us to talk about this build. So for this build, guys, we're going to be going with the Brawler skill tree, and we're also going to be doing the Fist of the Elements skill tree. Let's go ahead and get started with the first row. For the first row, guys, we're going to go and dump in 5 points into Root to Rise. What this is going to do, it's going to make Amara's max health go plus 40%. This is definitely one that you should highly invest in at the beginning of the game. One thing Amara does tend to lack on is in ammo, and you're going to want to make sure you get as much health as you possibly can while you're looking for ammo in the early stages of the game. Staying in the same row, guys, we're going to go to Clarity, and what this is going to do is Amara's going to constantly regenerate health. The lower her health gets, the more powerful the regeneration. So this is going to be, once again, a must-get item, and I would definitely dump all my 10 early first points on the first row. This is going to help Amara a ton, especially in the early stages of the game. Now on to row number 2, guys. For row number 2, we're going to go and run Samsara. When Amara deals damage to an enemy with her action skill, she adds a stack of Samsara. For every stack of Samsara, Amara gains increased gun damage and health regeneration. Once again, guys, if you're seeing the synergy of this build, you're seeing that we're getting a lot of health regeneration. This is going to be very effective. Once we deal the Samsara, we're going to be getting our health regen as well. Plus, that damage on gun boost is always really good. Once it's completely maxed out, we're going to get a plus 5 per enemy damage and a plus 5 of max health stack per second. And the cool thing about this is you're able to stack Samsara 5 times, and the duration of it is actually pretty extensive. It's 20 seconds. The next one we're going to be picking up in row number 2 is going to be Helping Hands. For a few seconds after using her action skill, Amara arm remains active and grants her damage reduction. This is very important, and the reason why we went with this one and we didn't go with Arms Deal is because Arms Deal only reduces splash damage, and this one actually reduces incoming damage, and it's going to make it really tanky because once it's completely maxed out, your damage reduction goes up to a plus 40%, and the duration of the skill is actually pretty effective. If it was something lower than 10 seconds, I would definitely skip this one, but 15 seconds is actually a relatively long time. Alright, so now on to row number 3, guys. We're going to completely skip row number 3, and we're going to go all the way to row number 4. And for row number 4, we're going to use One with Nature. Amara gains increased max health and elemental damage resistance to her action skill element. Once it's completely maxed out, it's going to push our max health to plus 25, and it's going to put our elemental damage reduction to plus 40%. So remember, we already got the 40 max health on one slot, and we got the plus 25 here, putting us at 65 max health, which is amazing, and giving her a ton of survivability, being able to absorb a ton of damage. All right, so let's move to row number 5. For row number 5, guys, we're going to be going with Guardian Angel. When Amara enters flight for life, she immediately gains a second wind, restoring her health and creating an action skill Elemental Nova that may knock back nearby enemies. The cool thing about this ability is that you come back to life with 100% max health. That makes this a must get, especially for a tank build, because you never know when you're going to go down, and when you go down, you want to make sure that when you come back up, you're not going to be going back down again. You just want to make sure you come back to 100 health, and this skill does that. It does have a relatively long cooldown, but I just don't see people going down twice within 120 seconds. All right, so now that we got the health section out of the way, the tanky that's going to allow us to survive, let's go and take a look at what we're going to need to do in order to be able to dish out some damage. And we're going to go to the Fist of the Element skill tree, and in this skill tree, we're going to start off with row number 1, and we're going to start with Anima. What it does is Amara's status effects deals increased damage over time and have increased duration. Her action skill status effects deals further increased damage. So it's just going to increase the damage of your status effect. Once it's completely maxed out, you're looking at action skill status effect damage of plus 40, status effect damage of plus 20, and a status effect duration of 100%, making it a really good ability for applying that status effect. Now, staying within the same row, we're also going to go and pick up Infusion. What this is going to do, it's going to convert a portion of the damage dealt by Amara's weapon into her action skill element. This is going to be very important because it's going to tie in perfectly with the last ability we're going to be picking up on this tree. So make sure you dump at least 2 points into this one to constantly be converting that into elemental damage. Now on to row number 2, guys. We are going to go to Tempest. Now what Tempest is going to do, what it's going to allow her to do, it's going to allow her to deal increased elemental damage. Shock damage is further increased. Once you completely max this out, your shock damage is going to go to a plus 20%, and your elemental damage is going to go up all the way up to 30%. Staying within the same row, guys, we're going to go to Wildfire. We're also going to be maxing this out. Whenever Amara applies a status effect to an enemy, it has a chance to spread by 2 different enemies. This is actually pretty good because if you have played Borderlands, you do know enemies do tend to stack up, and during late game, this is going to be very important. Since some of these areas are really confined, this is going to be very beneficial to you guys and allow you to do damage in another way that's not weapons or you having to melee someone. Now we're going to skip row number 3 and we're going to go straight down to row number 4. And for row number 34, we're going to do Deep Well. And you're probably wondering, why are we wasting a point on Deep Well? Well, the reason why we're wasting a point on Deep Well is because Amara suffers from lack of ammo. And it's going to be very important that you get as much ammo as you possibly can, especially in the early parts of the game. You're going to want to make sure you have enough ammo as you progress through. So this is definitely a requirement. If you ever play with Amara, you're going to notice that one of her drawbacks is the fact that she's almost always running out of ammo. So it's going to be very beneficial to you guys. It's just 1 point, so you don't really lose much. You're going to be gaining a plus 20% increase on the magazine size on elemental weapons. Staying within the same row, guys, we're going to go with Catharsis. Whenever Amara triggers an elemental effect on an enemy, when that enemy dies, that enemy explodes, dealing her attuned elemental damage along with any other element that is currently infected upon that enemy. This skill has a very short cooldown. That's why I love this skill, because this skill pretty much works like an explosive enemy. Basically, any time that you kill that enemy, they're going to explode. The nice thing I like about this one is depending on the elemental damage that you have, it's going to apply that damage. But even if you're shooting let's say you're shooting an enemy with cryo and you have the shock element equipped, you're going to be doing both element damage. It's really good skill, guys, and highly recommend, especially for a tank build. You're going to want to make sure you're applying damage not only with your gun, but also with your elements and also by killing enemies. Now on to the last 3 points, guys, and what's going to tie this complete build together. And remember how I said earlier when we were talking about Infusion, how our weapon was going to be able to convert itself into element damage when we shot someone? Well, the reason why we want to do that is because we want to use sustainment. And what this is going to do, it's going to allow Amara to gain lifesteal whenever she deals elemental damage with her weapon. This is extremely important, guys, and we're going to be dumping 3 points into this one. It's going to bring us to 12% of damage dealt. This is what's going to be keeping us alive, because we're going to be constantly doing damage at the same time we're doing damage, that damage is going to be proccing lifesteal. It's going to be very important to make sure you have perfect synergy with these two skills. That way we're constantly staying alive. Even though we're taking damage, most of our damage that we're outputting is going to be in an elemental form, and it's going to cost us to be getting that lifesteal back. Now let's check what we're going to be equipping as skills. Now, the cool thing about AMARA is that she's able to switch between different sorts of elements. So we're not going to be focusing primarily in corrosive or cryo or any sort of element. If you guys want to know how much damage each element does depending on what you're playing, definitely check out my video where I cover that intensively, and you guys should know exactly what elements to use depending on your game mode. Now, the skills we are going to be equipping, of course, is going to be her action skill, and we're also going to be equipping her skill effect. So for her action skill, we're actually going to go with Ties That Bind. The reason why we're doing this is because this is just pretty OP. What it's going to do, AMARA is going to summon a giant fist that bursts into the ground and locks the targets in place. This is actually pretty cool. But the nice addition to this one is that any enemy that's close within the proximity of that grasp, it's going to link the enemy. So it's going to not only tie the enemy you're grasping, but it's also going to link the enemies that are around her. Now, the cool thing about this is that if you actually shoot the bubble or the grasp fist that's in front of you, the big one, it's going to deal damage to the link targets as well, because it's shared between link targets and the grass enemy. Overall, it's going to give you a plus 35 damage dealt. And the cooldown of this is amazing. It's 18 seconds and it lasts 34 seconds. I love the duration on this one. It's going to give you a lot of time to do a lot of damage to multiple enemies. Now for our action skill effect, guys, we're going to go to the brawler tree and we're going to pick Revelation. What this is going to do is AMARA's action skill now creates a Nova when it damages enemies, dealing damage to all nearby enemies. This is cool because remember, we're grasping the enemy, we're keeping them linked. In addition to that, that Nova is going to cost more damage. The only thing is that we lose a negative 15% on the action skill, but the Nova damage kind of compensates for that. So we're keeping that 18% damage with the Nova. Overall, this is by far one of the best tanky builds. Not only is it going to help you in the early games, but also when you get towards the late games of the game. It's going to give you a ton amount of health. It's going to give you a ton amount of health regeneration, and it's going to deal a ton of elemental damage, which is very important for that late game. Plus, in addition to that, it's going to allow you to have a lot of damage reduction after using your action skill. So you're going to be pretty tanky and OP, not only in sustaining damage, but also dishing it out.